Yesterday we discussed about some database connectors. So there is a generic database connector in MuleSoft. We discussed about that. So today we are planning to discuss about there is a procedures also there actually, stored procedure. So we are planning to discuss about that today, stored procedures concept. So I just walk through what we did yesterday. Shrikant, actually, this is the Anypoint Studio, so it will look like our Eclipse. You are familiar, you already familiar with Java, right? So this is look like that only. So this is a package explorer. So here all the projects will be there. So what were the projects we created? So the projects will be there. So this is the package explorer. So list of projects will display here. So next one is this is the console. This is a console here. Server logs will display it in this console. So next one is, so this is a palette actually. So in this palette, you can see all the list of message processors. These are the message processors. Here connectors are there, filters are there, then exception strategies are there. So in this palette we can see all the mule message processors actually. So connectors, filters, everything is there actually. So next one is, this is main window. So in this we have just drag and drop whatever the component here. You already aware of TIFCO, right? So TIFCO also same actually, just we can drag and drop here. So once we drag and drop it, so then we have to configure each and every component. So I just drag and drop HTTP here. If you double click on this, it was expecting some configuration actually. That configuration we have to keep it. That's it, nothing is there. So that configuration we have to keep it. So this is one of the inbound connector. So here, if you see here dotted line, so left side of that there is some inbound connector. Right side of that, whatever the logic we want to write it, right? That logic we have to keep it right side of that. So this inbound connector acts as a, it will take the input from the source system, whatever the source system is trying to hit it. It will take the source system input, then accordingly it will process it actually. It will push to the right side. So this arrow, it will represent this whole flow. This is nothing but a flow actually. This flow follows message event driven architecture, SADA architecture. So according to this architecture, so whenever we get the message from the source system, that will push to the next level. And that is automatically happen. No need to take care anything. So whenever the message happen here, message coming here, automatically internally the trigger will happen actually. So that will go to the process. You were asking some question. Do we have any process starters like in TIBCO? Process starters. Actually here, you mean process starters means by itself it will invoke, or somebody will invoke the system? Can you explore the question again? So do we have any process starters like in TIBCO? Process starters by itself, okay. So actually here two things are there. So by itself if we want, so it will invoke it, or else somebody source system, it will hit the request actually. It's based on request. They start some event records, yeah. So that process also there actually. We have a polling mechanism is there. We can keep it polling mechanism. So in the polling mechanism, we can keep it some refreshment time actually. So that is every day or else every 10 minutes or else every 2 minutes. We can keep it a polling mechanism. So accordingly, it will trigger it. That is one way. If you want to by itself component will be trigger. That is one way. Another way is there is a file connector is there actually. So in the file connector, we can keep the path in that file connector, we can keep it in the poll. So based on that poll time, it will trigger actually. That is another way. One more way is there is a scheduler job is there. There is a Informatica jobs are there now, so we can write the shell script that will trigger based on the refreshment time, right? So every day 24 hours refreshment time or else 48 hours refreshment time we can set in the Informatica jobs. Similarly here also we can schedule job schedulers are there. You can drag and drop the job scheduler, so we can keep inside logic actually. So that way also we can achieve it. That is another way. So here, so basically this flow is we are exposing a REST call. We are exposing a REST call actually. So REST call means we are exposing one URL to the source system. So he will consume. You are the exposer here. He will consume our REST call means URL. Then he will hit the request. So whenever he will hit the request, we'll get the request from the source system. So that will taken care by your HTTP connector here. So there is an inbound connector. Whenever he will hit the request from the source system, so that will come to the HTTP request, then it will go accordingly. Once request come to the HTTP component, according to SCADA-driven architecture, it will go to the event will trigger internally. It will go to the next level. So whatever the payload hitting by the consumer, right? So then it will come here, then it will accordingly whatever the logic implemented right internally, so that logic will perform. Then once everything is done, it will get back and it will send to the source system. Understood? This is a two-way communication. If you see here, there is a arrow symbol, two-way communication. It will take the request, means it will take the feed. We can say feed also. It will take the feed. So then whatever you want to do in the logic, right, we can do. Then might be you will hit some third-party system also, target system. You will get back the response. Then the response will share to the again to the source system. You are clear? So both ways are there. So initiators are there. By default, it will initiate based on scheduler jobs, based on polling mechanism. Then intentionally source system will hit it. That time also we'll get the request, we'll process the request, then we'll finally serve the request. You are clear? Okay, thank you. So in this, that is a HTTP connector is the inbound connector. So here like this, some of the inbound connectors are there, some of the target system, some of the outbound connectors are there. For hitting target system, we'll use, suppose I want to hit to the Salesforce system to get the information. Okay, so that is not a inbound connector actually, that is an outbound connector. So we have to use after dotted line. If you see here, there is a dotted line is there. Whatever the left side, we can keep it only inbound connectors. Right side, we can keep it outbound connectors. Outbound connector is used for hitting the target system, some third party system. Suppose I want to fetch some information from the CRM application, means Salesforce or else ERP application. So like that, right? How it differs. So means inbound connector and outbound connector, you mean to say? Shrikant, is that the question? So how it differs? Okay, dragging to left and right. Yes, exactly. So here some of the connectors act as a both things actually. So suppose if we take HTTP connector, so that will act as a inbound connector as well as outbound connector. If you drag left side, so that will act as a inbound connector. If you drag right side of the dotted line, it will act as a outbound connector. Is that clear? Okay. So in this flow what we did, there is a JDBC connection in Java, right? Java database connectivity is there in Java, right? So here we are trying to achieve through Mule. So further, so we have a anyway, you are clear this HTTP request. After that we kept so there is a database connector. So further, so here there is a generic database connector actually. So generic database connector means this is not exclusively for one database. So this is for empty at left side. No, we can't keep empty in left side because see in main flow we can't keep it actually. So there is other flows are there. There is a this flow is nothing but a combination of message process. It's a combination of message process. Message processor means each and every component is nothing but a message processor. In the main flow we can't keep empty at the left side. If we keep it empty in the left side, that is nothing but a private flow. You are clear? So there is a three types of flows in the Mule. One is main flow, another one is private flow, another one is subflow. So if we keep empty in the left side, that is nothing but a private flow. If you, I mean, if there is no segregator in the flow, I mean left side and right side segregator, so that is nothing but a private flow. Yes, private flow we need to call by other flow actually. So that private flow will call by main flow, and then subflow will call by some other flow, either private flow or else main flow. You are clear? So inbound connector should be there in the main flow because somebody should initiate it, right? Otherwise it won't trigger it. In the private flow there is no inbound connector actually because that is calling by main flow. There is a flow reference, flow reference is there. Suppose take scenario. So in our application we will create database only one time, database connection only one time, but several times we'll keep on using the database connection. So based on our requirement we'll on off kind of thing, right? So whenever I want to database connection, just I will on it and then I will get the connection. Whenever I don't want database connection, once your requirement is done, we can stop the connection, right? That things happen, right? In Oracle we'll get the connection. Once your requirement is done, we'll disconnect the connection. Otherwise other people are trying to access database connection. You are clear? So that type of scenario we can create a private flow. Suppose create a connection. So that is one private flow we can keep it. Whatever the logic further create connection we can write in the private flow. So then whenever you want in the main flow we can keep it a flow reference. Flow reference means for calling that particular private flow you can keep it flow reference actually. Okay, so we can keep it a flow reference. In the flow reference we can call that whenever you want that private flow, I mean database connection, we can call it, we can stop the connection. Like that means only once we will define the whole application. Whenever you want, now I am working on one module, I want connection, just I will call that flow, then I will create the connection. Whenever my work is done, so then I will stop the connection. Like you are working on other module, so then we will create the connection, then whenever your work done, then we will stop the connection. Like that we are creating only once that private flow, so many people are trying to use it. That is nothing but a common scenario, common function will create in a private flow, or else you can create in a subflow. So multiple people are trying to use it. You are clear? Okay, thank you. Hello, Sudha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next one is here we are using a database generic connector for connecting database. So here I am trying to connect MySQL database. So here is the thing. So we need to just drag and drop the database connector. So this is a generic database connector. We can connect multiple databases based on your requirement. So now here I want to connect MySQL database. I just drag and drop the database. So here once we drag and drop it, we need to configure it, each and every component. So then click here. So we'll get that because I already added. So if you want to add a new one, then click plus symbol. So you can see here what database you want to choose it. So here 4 databases it was showing. Derby means Derby database. Next one is MySQL, like this Oracle actually. Here I was configure MySQL. If you click here, it will ask the configuration like this. I already added the configuration. So here there is a URL. Next one is driver class. Apart from that, can we add another DB? Yes, you can add it in other flows actually. Suppose in my requirement, I want to connect MySQL as well as Oracle. Think like that. You can add multiple databases, no issue. Suppose my requirement is first I want to connect a MySQL database. Second, I want to connect some Oracle database. You can add it. So we can keep that time what happened, two configurations we need to set it actually. So whenever you will configure it, so it will go to the global elements actually. See here, you can see this global elements. It will go to the global elements. Means if you set in the global elements, so anybody can access that same configuration. He won't create again and again actually. Like this here, I configured MySQL. Again, we can able to configure one more, create one more. That time what happened here, it will show two connectors, MySQL and again Oracle. So that time what happened, whoever want to MySQL configuration, he can use that MySQL connector. So means database, and he will choose the MySQL configuration. If you see here the name it will display here. So here as of now only one MySQL configuration, right? So if you add one more, it in the drop down it will come. Understood. Oracle configuration, Derby configuration, how many configuration you set it, multiple configurations will get it. So that time, suppose I am working on another module, I just drag and drop that database connector. Just drag and drop the database connection. That time what happen? It will show you in the list of drop down. If you set multiple configuration in the list of drop down, I no need to set it again. So just already somebody did it, that configuration. I choose that configuration simply. So that time what happened? Whatever the configuration, either Oracle or else Derby or else some other MySQL configuration, I just choose it. So that time what happened? That will come into the database connector. You are clear? You can use it multiple database simultaneously. Okay, thank you. So next one is, so once you get the data, so here I written the query. So this is the configuration here. So there is a URL and driver name. So similar like Java actually. So in the Java, so we have to pass the URL for connecting the database, right? So we choose the driver first. Next one is we have to pass the URL. In the URL, we have to pass these things. So either it's a local host or else remote. Then what was the port number of that? What was the database name of that? Means schema name. So next one is user ID, password. We have to keep sending these things in the Java also, right? So we have to set the URL. Next one, you have to choose the driver, right? So we have different types of drivers, right? So here that is nothing but a thin driver, so type 4. Okay, so we have to set this. So here we can set the test connection here itself. No need to run the application, then after that it will connect or not, you can check it, right? So that is not required. Here there is a test connection button is there. Whenever you click it, so everything is good, so it will show you connection got successful. If not, we can change here itself. Once connection got success, then what we need to do? So what do you want to do exactly? So that operation we have to choose it. So here, so there is a different operations are there. What operation you are going to choose? Either select or else insert, update, or else you want to write some stored procedure. So whatever the operation you want to choose it, then you have to choose it. Then we have to write the query accordingly. So here again here, so there is a different types of queries are there. Dynamic query, parameterized query, from template, like that is there. So here is I was using dynamic query. So here select first name. So here nothing but dynamic query, parameterized query. So it's nothing but, if you see in the Java, so we have a statement, prepared statement, callable statement. Did you heard about it? Statement, prepared statement, callable statement. Three interfaces, right? Three interfaces in Java. Similarly, here also same thing happened actually. So dynamic query, parameterized query from template. If you choose in parameterized query in Java, you can write with the comma separated question marks, right? So each field is nothing but one question mark. Each column is nothing but one question mark we can kept in the Java, right? Similarly here also same thing actually. If you choose a parameterized query, internally it will write accordingly. So here whole mule components, whatever the mule components, they built in Java only. They built in Java only internally. So if you drag and drop on component, if you write the logic, it will execute it. So based on internally, they return the Java only. Okay. So this is the query. This is the query. So here, what I'm writing here, select first name from employees where last name equal. I'm passing the dynamic value actually. Whenever we pass the last name, accordingly, it will pick the first name. So that is my requirement. So then once this is done, it will hit the database. Then once we got it, here I was using some transformer. So the database connector, it will return MEL is compulsory here in statement. So this is the MEL expression only, mule expression language, because in JSP, right, Java server pages in Java. So it's almost similar syntax only here also using. So yes, it should require. So because wherever the dynamic value you have to get it, right, that MEL is required to learn it, required to write it. Okay, no. Apart from MEL, Java is required, core Java is required, that is a collection concept is required, because we are playing with, can we write in another language? Yeah, you can write, that's what I'm saying. So if you are aware with Python, if you are aware with Python script, if you are aware with Groovy script, Groovy is nothing but a Java only. But compared to other, this is simple only. Compared to other Python script and again Groovy script, that's a whole Java. So that in the Groovy script you can write whole Java again, right? So in the Python also you can write the script. So but here compared to that, you can easily learn this mule expression language. It's simple only. It's not a big deal to learn it. Yes, you can. If you want to write Python script, you can write it, no issue. If you are familiar with other scripts like Python or else Groovy, so then you can write it. Okay. So here is the mule expression. Then I'm getting the dynamic value from the user whenever he is trying to hit the request. Then I'm passing that value. Simple actually. Here, see, whatever the things we are getting from the user, whoever hitting our request, right, our flow, right. So whatever the data coming from the source system, it will coming as a message actually. In the message, there's a message have some structure, message have some inbound properties, message have some attachments, message have some outbound properties. So always we are talking about message only because we are getting the payload or else feed or else message, whatever it is. So that contains the data, payload contains the data. We want to filter the data, else we want to do some operation on the data. We are always playing with message here. So here whenever user will hit to our request, that will come if you want to send any inbound properties, so that will coming means here in this particular requirement he is sending some query parameters actually. That query parameters coming under inbound properties because he is giving it as an input. Understood? Is giving as an input. So that's why that is coming under inbound properties. So http.query params means in the query itself he is sending some data. If you see this, if you see any something like this, see this is the query, right? Sorry, this is the URL, right? In the URL, so I want to send some query parameter, something like this, question mark, then some name equal some ROM. I want to send some query parameter. So in the URL, so that was the happening here actually. So HTTP query parameters of last name, he is sending some last name equal something. So that time what happened, I'm capturing that last name from the inbound properties. I'm passing that dynamically to the query. I'm trying to filter the query based on the last name. Not clear? So that is the thing happen here. Okay, so once we got the data, I was using some transformer here from converting to object to JSON. So it will return some object. So that but user was expecting, whoever hitting a request to us, I mean requesting us, so that guy was expecting some JSON format. So as a middleware guy, we need to convert how he was expecting, we need to convert it. So that was happening here. So I was using, there is a transformer called object to JSON. I was using that transformer. I'm converting into the object to JSON format. Then finally I'm returning the JSON format. Okay, so that is happening here. So this is the database connector we discussed actually yesterday. So today we'll discuss about these things, stored procedure. How we'll work with stored procedure. Here is the option, some stored procedure. How we'll work with stored procedure. So what is the difference between these operations, select and insert and something else? So update and delete, these are always talking about particular table actually. But I want to play with multiple tables. I want to work with multiple tables. That time we'll go for stored procedures. I thought you are aware of some backend stored procedures, right? So stored procedures, why people will go stored procedures? So I want to work with multiple tables simultaneously, or else I want to work with based on condition based. So that time we'll go for this type of stored procedures. Second, I will explain the stored procedure first. See the stored procedure. In the stored procedure, this is the stored procedure. Create a procedure. This is a syntax for creating the procedure. I am talking about backend here. Create a stored procedure. Create procedure followed by procedure name. Procedure name. So how it will, how we need to write the procedures actually. There is a concept called in parameter and out parameter. So suppose procedure is giving some data to you, that will act as a out parameter. Okay, so if suppose procedure expecting some data from you, so that one we need to give as an in parameter. So that is the difference between in parameter and out parameter. Okay, so here is I am passing some parameters here, that is username and user ID. So remaining all same, you are aware of this, right? Character, varchar and all, it's a string, nothing but username. So next one is user ID. So next one is some alert status. Next one is not required something. So these are these data expecting from mule actually. So that's why you kept an in parameter. Okay, so next one is in the syntax we have to keep it a begin actually. In the begin, what I'm trying to do, if we can write the condition also, that's what advantage in procedures. If select EID from employee, where EID equal to user ID. So where you are sending user ID from mule, it was expecting. Okay, we are sending in parameter user ID. So we are assigning that user ID, then we'll give it to the EID. So then what happened, if record is there, user ID is there, what we are doing, update employee, set alert equal to alert status and FEQ equal to not FEQ. Clear. So here agenda is, if the record is there, try to update it. If the record is not there, then create a new record. Understood? That was the requirement. Else, if the record is there, then update it. Else, if not there, then create a new employee. Then and if finally we'll select the employee, then we can close that. This is the way to write the procedure. So whatever the operation you want to do in the middle, you can write it actually. So either we can write the condition, or else if you want to write some joins between multiple tables, you can write here. So that's what the difference. Suppose if you're talking about table, you will talk only about that particular table, right? If you calling procedure, or else if you calling if you wanted to play with multiple tables simultaneously, that time what happen, we need to work with procedures. So generally, as a middleware guy, no need to work on the procedures and I mean whatever the backend things. So somebody else will create and it will give us actually the procedure, tables and whatever it is. So they will share us. Then accordingly we have to use that particular table or else that particular procedure. We have to call it. We'll work on it. No need to bother about. But as a middleware guy, as a Java guy, we should know something. So what was the, I mean, so generally here how it will happen, suppose to share this type of procedures, right, these backend people. So they didn't share as of now. As a developer, we need to create some markup data. At least we need to create some sample data. We need to finish our flow until unless he will share that procedure, or else he will share that table. You are clear what I'm saying, right? So suppose we started a sprint. I mean, I'm talking about agile thing. We'll start a sprint. Then we have only some 2 week sprint, right? We have only some 10 days. Within a 10 days, we need to finish our flow, our service. So, they didn't share anything. That backend guy, they didn't share anything. But we can't stop our work, right? So as a developer, we need to create some markup data in the database, at least in our local. We need to install the database in the local. Then we need to create some markup data like this. I just create one table. I just create one procedure. In the procedure, we just create some data, sample data, dummy data. Then we can trigger to our mule, then it will working or not, we can check it actually. So whenever that original procedure, original table will come after sharing that backend guy, we need to check real time that time. Is it clear? So that's the things happen. That's why we should know at least some knowledge on this stored procedures, tables and all. So that's was here I'm trying to explain that mule flow. Okay, here is the one more procedure. Actually I'm calling this procedure. So here both are there, in and out parameters both are there. Here is, see this, get employee by person ID, get employee person ID. I'm giving the person ID. I'm expecting other parameters. Previous procedures only out parameters are there. Here both are there. In parameter is there, then out parameter is there. Create procedure, get employee person ID. The delimiter also required while writing the procedure. Next one is in person ID. So it was expecting person ID. Next, once other fields are whatever you mention out, right, it will return us. It will return the data, whatever the out parameters, whatever the in parameter is there, it will take the input from us. Next one is begin. Select start from person, where person ID equal person ID. Whatever you enter, whatever it will get from the wheel, so that will assign it. Then it will close it, delimiter. That's it. That is a procedure. So what happened, whenever you call this procedure, it will take the person ID from us. Then it will give other values. whatever the person ID. Suppose my requirement is where person ID equal 101. If you send the 101, it will give how many person IDs with 101 that will display us. So this is the MySQL database. So this is the person table. So with 101 actually I didn't keep the primary key, that's why it can able to take same ID multiple times. So 101 with two records are there. So I already ran this procedure. This as it is we can run this procedure. I will give the output like this. If the successfully create that, it will give us. Okay. So next one is from the mule how will trigger that procedure. How will call that procedure. See this how we'll call it. Here is the database connector, similar database generate database connector, we have to choose it. So configuration is a bit different actually here. So compared to other normal select and other operations are there now, select, insert, update, delete. So it's here we have to choose the stored procedure. Option is the stored procedure because we are calling the procedure. So next one is here is the parameterized because we are passing the parameters actually. Means fields, whatever the fields we are expecting we have to pass it. Next one is see here. So here we have to add it whatever the fields you are expecting, whatever the fields you are giving to the procedure, all we have to mention here actually. How will mention here, there is a plus symbol is there, just we can keep on add it here, plus symbol, person ID. Next one is in because our flow is expecting in parameter as a person ID, sorry, our procedure is expecting in parameter as person ID. So that's why person ID is, here is a drop down, you can see the drop down actually. So in out out, both in out, and then in out also one variable acts as a one column acts as a both in and out. You can choose accordingly which one you want. Clear, right? We have to click the plus symbol, then we have to type the data. Here is the drop down, we can choose the drop down, one of them. So next one is, here is the value actually, I just hard code it. Generally what will happen, so somebody will hit the request to you, from them you have to get the data. So suppose they are hitting some payload, right? In the payload we have to get the data from them. So then we have to pass accordingly, but dynamically we have to pass. Here is mule expression language will work it actually, MEL. Using that MEL you can write it flow variable, from the flow variable you are getting, or else from the payload you are getting whatever the message MEL expression language, that will work here, right? Values, what value you are giving as in parameter, right? In the out parameter, that might be, it's, we can't mention anything because it's an out parameter, right? We are getting the input, we are getting the data from the procedure, that's why there is no value for out parameter. So whatever you are giving as a in parameter, that we have to mention, that we can mention dynamically. I just hard coded it, but it will come as from flow itself, either from the payload, either from the variable, whatever you written the logic, right? From the logic we have to get it. So next one is, here is the types actually, here also drop down is there, but while seeing it's not look like a drop down, but if you click it, you can see drop down is there actually. So here what data type it is, suppose there is a different databases like integer means database type, integer, flow, char, double, so whatever it is, so based on your requirement you have to choose it. So my all parameters are varchar only, so that's why I choose varchar. You are clear? So this is a configuration for procedure actually. This is a way to configure the procedure. So first we have to finalize what are the input parameters, what are the output parameters. So that is the first step. First we need to create the procedure on the backend, how we are expecting. Okay. So how many in parameters you are expecting, that you have to keep it as an in parameter. How many out parameters we are getting. expecting, then you have to mention as out parameter. So then whatever the logic you have to write it, right? I will explain one scenario. There is a scenario. Suppose I'm trying to create a opportunity. Okay, every day the dollar amount got changed. Every day keep on changing the dollar amount, right? My requirement is my client was maintaining the dollar amount in the database. He created one procedure. Get it right? He created one procedure for getting dollar amount. Okay, I'm getting some noise actually. Just whoever not speak, then mute it. Okay, thank you. My scenario is, it's a real-time scenario. So everyday dollar amount got changed backend, right? So these people will update in the backend. Will update in the backend the dollar amount. What was the latest dollar amount? He will update it. Okay. So then our requirement is, so we need to call that procedure. So he calculated that whatever the dollar amount he calculated in the procedure. So that procedure will expect what was expecting from the mule. That procedure we need to send some opportunity count actually. Based on that opportunity count, based on that items, it will create the amount, final amount. Suppose dollar amount is 67 rupees. I want to create some 1000 adapters, 1000 Cisco adapters. I want to create it. It's nothing but an opportunity. We are giving opportunity to Cisco. So from the flow, we have to pass opportunity items. How many items you want to create as an opportunity? It means whenever you will give the opportunity count, so that procedure will give total amount, opportunity amount. It will give it 1000 adapters into the dollar amount. It will calculate it. It will give the total amount. That total amount will get as an out parameter. What is the in parameter here? Opportunity item. I mean opportunity items. What you are going to buy it. Suppose Cisco adapters I am going to buy it. How much count? How many adapters you want to buy it? That we have to give as an input parameter. So what will get total amount? It will calculate the opportunity amount. It will give us an amount. So that is an out parameter. You are clear, right? So this type of operations will go for procedure actually. What they are doing in the back end, so they will hit somewhere else, they will get the dollar amount, they will calculate whole operations. First he will check it. You are giving items or not. If conditions, they will check in the procedure. So they will check in the procedure, then accordingly he will calculate that operation, whatever the dollar amount calculation. So some other things, he will check multiple things, multiple tables. So he will calculate it. Then finally he will give it end of the procedure. He will give it to the dollar amount. That will take it as an out parameter. Then accordingly we'll go next level. You're clear. We'll create the opportunity in the Salesforce. So that type of scenarios you can use this type of procedure. Hope you are clear that scenario. So like that here, in parameter, out parameter. I am giving person ID as an in parameter. Give other values. I am asking to procedure, boss, I am giving person ID as an input parameter. So can you give me these all values? Filter the data, then can you give me other values? So this is the configuration. So here see this, how we'll call the procedure. Call, get employee person ID, then what are the parameters? Person ID, last name, first name, address, city. So these are all we have to give it, either in parameter or out parameter, no matter it is. But we have to mention all the parameters. What parameters you are expecting, we have to mention all the parameters, either in parameter or out parameter. See here, total 5 parameters. The total 5 parameters, how we'll mention? This is important actually. First we have to keep it a colon before the parameter, before the column. Here there is person ID is nothing but a column here. Before that parameter we have to keep it a colon person ID, colon last name. So with comma separated, again with comma separated we have to give it. Then you have to set it accordingly. Person ID is an in or out parameter. We have to decide it. We have to define the data type. Accordingly we have to set whole things. Okay, So once you get it, then I just display the logger. Actually, this is the log4j mechanism. I just log it as a fetch results. What we are getting, I just display in the log4 mechanism. So here advantage of logger, it's an asynchronous process actually. Your performance won't kill here. Asynchronous process means once you get the data, it will go direct. It won't wait for logger action until unless it will execute it. Understood? It won't taken care. Once it will go here, it will jump to object to JSON because it's an asynchronous process. Your flow won't wait for logger. You are clear what I'm saying? It's an asynchronous process means, so normally synchronous process means what? Suppose user will hit request to you, right? User will hit HTTP request. Until unless whole things performs, you need to wait for the response. That is nothing but a synchronous process. But here logger will act as a asynchronous, means you are hitting the request, forget it. So I won't wait for response. That is nothing but asynchronous. So here also your logger acts as a, just from once you get the response, it will go here, it will jump here. Just we are hitting, that's it. No need to bother about that is displaying or not, that is later. So that's why it will go here, it will jump here, then it will execute accordingly. Anyway, logger will display. Logger will take care, logger will display it. So loggers will act as asynchronous process, means your performance won't kill if you can use multiple loggers in the middle. So whenever you want, yeah, that's what. See, generally we'll keep write SOPs, right? Generally we'll write the SOPs, SOP system.out.println will write in the Java, right? So what was the purpose of that? We'll see what was the data we are getting, what was the data we are sending, that type of understanding, right? While implementing the logic, you are clear. So here also, even Java also will use log4j mechanism. There is a jar file called dependency called log4j, right? We'll keep it, will display loggers, right, in the middle. So different types of levels like info level, trace level, debug level, right? So here also same thing actually. If you see here in the drop down, we have different types of levels, log levels, info level, error level, debug level, trace level. So exactly what was the purpose here? Suppose now as a developer I can see whatever the things happen in the flow, I can see in the console itself here, right? Here when to use which level. Yeah, so generally based on your requirement, actually generally people will keep info level, right? Info level means what? Suppose I just deploy this application into server, right? Think like there is no logger here, there is no logger here. So can we know where is the flow got failed? At least if you display this logger, you can see, oh, fetch a result and payload is displaying. After that some issue got it. Understood? We can understand based on this logger in the server. We can see the server logs, right? Daily, so suppose suddenly issue got created in the server, right? How will track it? How will find out that issue? So at least if you keep these loggers, we can able to understand where it got failed. So suppose I mentioned clearly written fetch results. Fetch results means we can understand, oh, after the database hitting we got the result, after that somewhere else it got failed. We can understand at least. Otherwise if there is no logger, we'll struggle to identify it, right? We'll struggle to reproduce that issue where it will get exactly. If we keep it this type of logger things, we can able to understand where exactly culprit something, right? We can understand. So coming to your question, so this as of now I kept info level. Suppose I don't want the info level, whenever error will get it, that error we have to display it. Then we can choose the error level. So that time what happen, only whenever error get it, that time only it will display it. So debug level. So whenever we want to debug it, that time only we have to keep it. So like this trace warning. So whichever you want, you can keep it. Generally people will prefer this default level, that is info level. So if we keep it, we can easily identify it actually what happened. So where got failed. So displaying properly data or not, we can check it. Okay. So after that, next object to JSON, once you get the data, we are converting into JSON. So next one is So next one is finally I want to display the data in the browser. Whoever hitting, I want to send it as a payload. Payload means total final payload I want to send to the whoever is hitting our request, right? It will go and it will serve the request, a response like that. So I'm trying to run this, we'll see.
Muted. Unmuted.
Guys, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Sorry for that. Actually, power 7:30 shop 7:30 every day power is gone. I don't know. Okay, so where we are? Yeah. So I'm trying to run this. I'm trying to deploy this. So here, so this is a way to deploy this. Right click on the project, then run as mule application. This is a way to deploy the application. So what happened internally whenever you deploy it, in Eclipse you will add that Tomcat server will deploy the application, right? Similarly here also internally there is a Jetty server is there, Jetty, Jetty server is there. So whenever you deploy it, right, that will deploy in the Jetty server. So why these millions of people prefer Jetty? So that is a lightweight. There is a lightweight server, so that's why they internally add that plugin Jetty server. Okay, so our application got deployed successfully. Is that recording session is going on? Recording is okay. Recording is going on. So it got deployed successfully. Okay, so I'm trying to hit the request from the outside. Call procedure. Okay, this is my procedure. HTTP localhost 8017, that is my port number. Actually, if you see here, we kept the port, we set the port number as 8017 localhost, then base path is call procedure. So this is a way to need to hit the request. So I just hit it. I'm sure it was, just hit the request. It will come the flow, it will come to the mule flow. Just see here I just display the log also. I written the log also. In the logger our data is displaying. twice, two times I was hitting, two times display. See here, I was getting that. So here, finally, I was displaying it in the format of JSON actually, object to JSON. So that's why it is coming as an JSON. Two records there, the two records displaying in the form of JSON. Whatever the user will expect, that format you have to share it actually. You can see debug mode also if you want to see debug mode. So where it will happen step by step, you want to see, right click on the particular component, so toggle breakpoint, choose a toggle breakpoint. For that we need to run that application in the debug mode. Previously we ran that application in the normal mode. Now I am running in the debug mode. Debug as previously we chose run as, now I am choosing debug as mail application. If you run the debug mode, so then you can see step by step. So wherever you want to keep the debug, just keep the debug point, then hit the request. Okay, see this, we got that. Here clearly we can see what we are getting as a payload, what inbound parameter we are getting. See in the debug mode you can see lot of things actually. So what payload you are getting, we are not getting any payload from the user actually, right? So if any payload we are getting, we can see this is a get request actually. He is trying to get the data from us. If it is any post request, you can see data also. So here is the inbound parameter. So in the inbound parameters you can see what he was sending. So what which browser he is trying to hit the request, everything you can track it actually. What the remote address he was using, what request path it is, everything you can track it. So like variables, if you are creating any variables, you can see here. Similarly outbound parameters, if you create any session variables, you can see. If you create any record variables, you can see. Like that in the debug mode we can see a lot of things. Okay, so next so if you want to see next step by step, click this F6 or else the symbol. Okay, once connection got created, sorry, I mean database connection created, and it returned some data. See this, how it was written the data in the form of hash map. From the database we are getting hash map. Can you see this hash map, right? So that's why we are converting into hash map is nothing but an object, right? From the object, it's a key value pair of kind of thing, right? So from that we are trying to convert into other formats, right? Object to JSON we are trying to convert it. That JSON we are sending to the request. Now see the payload, how it is, it got changed. Previously it is in the form of hash map, now it is a string. So JSON is nothing but a string actually. It was converting like this. So then we'll finally, here F8 or resume is there, click this, then it will go to the, it will go to here, it will display the data here. So that's the thing. So hope you people clear how we create the procedure, then how we'll execute it, how we'll call that from the mule. Okay, so any questions as of now? What is the use of set payload here? I was a question from Srikanth. Again power gone. Guys, can you hear me?
Muted. Unmuted.
Yeah, guys, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. So coming to your question, what is the use of set payload here in the flow? Set payload mean here, so what was the purpose of that component? We can hold the data actually. We can hold the data, whatever you are getting previous, right? So we can hold the data in the payload. For that purpose we'll use it actually. We can do some whenever we want. Sometimes we'll do hard coded, or else sometimes we'll get dynamic values, right? Whatever it is, we can do it actually. Here we can hold the data, so in the form of see this is the meal expression again, MEL hash within square bracket we have to keep it a payload. It means whatever the payload is moving in the flow you can hold here. So any questions? Sudha, do you have any questions?
No.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Uh, that's what today's session. So that is about stored procedures. So can you go through it? So I will share the recording. So do you have any questions? We'll discuss again.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Okay.